This is our storage room, and as you can tell, we need some new shelves. So today's project is building shelves for a storage room. It could be used in a garage also, but first I have to get everything out before I can start the process. I wanted to hurry and give you a sneak peek of what my shelving looks like after it's installed and explain how I actually design it, because I don't share that later on in the video. And so basically what I do is I determine what I want stored on each shelf. So for example, this shelf has these big tubs on it. So I made sure that it's wide or tall enough to be able to fit these. And underneath here, I'm storing 5-gallon buckets full of paint. So I want to make sure those are tall enough for that as well. And that is how I basically do everything else, just determining what I want to store on it. I didn't explain too that I did this shelf above my freezer. So I made it so that I could open up the freezer and still access stuff inside. But this is my storage room. I'm gonna start cutting all this wood. I'm actually sitting on a bunch of it. So I have my saw set up and I'm gonna just start cutting a bunch of these. I have my plans all drawn up and my cut list, which tell me exactly what I need to cut. So I'm gonna go over to the saw and start making a bunch of cuts. I am going to try to make it go faster by cutting a bunch of things at the same time for the same size, and let's get this put together. So now I'm going to add some bracing on the actual legs for the shelf. What I'm using is just some 2x4s that are just cut into, I think this is 3 inches, but I don't even know. And so what I'm going to do is just measure it and secure this onto each of these sides all the way up, and then it'll be easier to place each shelf on individually as we go to put it into place. And on my measurements, I do say what the shelf's distance, so I'm going to use that and hurry and figure out where the bracing needs to be. As you can tell, I did clamp together all these. This is completely flush with the bottom so that everything is even. And I just made sure that it's all the same length from the bottom. Tighten my clamps. And I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm gonna hurry and start attaching screws to each block, and then I'll put a block here and secure it all the way down. I am using 2.5-inch screws. Now that all the screws are on the blocks, I'm going to start assembling them. What I do is I start by making sure that it's flush with the outside edge. This is flush with its top plate, and then I just attach it. And I continue this all the way down. And now I'll move this up to the next shelves and I'll just continue it all the way up. So now that I've cut all my wood, I'm going to start assembling one shelf. So according to my instructions, I'll have legs that hold each shelf. That's why I did those little platforms on these guys. So right now I'm just building the frame for each shelf, and I'm going to do one at a time. So what I'll do is I'll build this frame, and then I'll put it on the legs, I'll assemble it on the wall, and then I'll do the next shelf. Well, before I do the next shelf, I'll actually do the plywood. So you'll see that whole process, but this is assembling just that frame. So for this guy, I've actually already marked this board because this is my back board. You'll notice my jigs going in the side, so these will jig onto the legs. But I have measured already where the middle of this is, where this middle brace will go. So now I am just going to attach it on. Okay, now I'm ready to unclamp it and put the legs up. Okay, because I kind of have the legs out where they need to be. They're obviously leaning against the wall so that they don't fall over until we can get the frame up. So now I'm going to pick up the frame and hopefully, maybe with my little helper back here, we can get it up by ourselves.
And as you can see, this didn't work out as planned and I needed a little extra help. It's also helpful to use clamps to hold these legs into place before drilling. Now I'm attaching the legs to the frame of the shelf. I'm using 2.5-inch screws to do this, and I'm taking the front legs and I'm drilling straight through, where the back legs will use pocket holes to attach to the legs. And as always, it's a great idea to pre-drill these holes in the front legs before attaching the screws. Now that the bottom shelf is installed, we can add the 1/2-inch plywood into place. You might think that you could do this later, but because of the way the legs are, it would make it very difficult to add at a later date. So add it now. To secure the plywood piece to the frame of the shelf, first, I would recommend pre-drilling the holes of where the screws are going to be, and this is going to be in the corners and along the sides, and then use the 1.25-inch screws to attach it into place. You will want to be mindful of where other screws have been used in the frame, just to make sure that you do not hit them with these screws. Once you've finished attaching this shelf, continue building the rest of the shelves the same way.
And then I secured it all together. You can see some of the brackets connecting all of them together. That way they're all attached together and they're not going anywhere. So this was just an easier way to add storage to our storage room. And now I just have to put everything back.